still at number 9, which I said he was. He had gone into door 5 alone and met an unpleasant end because Ace told him to do so. Finally, the man on the very left, the man in the pinstriped suit. Oh man, that's Ace. Yeah, I guess it is. No doubt about it. Seven and Clover had come to peer over Junpei's shoulder. Poor bird's nest. Yep. But what did it mean? What was Ace doing in the picture? Perhaps more importantly, why were the 9th man and the cabinet as well? As Junpei looked closer, he noticed the expression on each man's face. Their smiles suggested they were very close to at least some degree. But why? How? What was the relationship between these 4 men? Voice broke into Junpei's thought. You say Ace is in that picture? Oh, does that mean the drug man Ace killed was the tall guy? Oh, that could be it! Because his hair in that picture was very similar to Snake's. Brain blown. Anyway, yeah, it doesn't look like it was taken recently though. Ace, the 9th man, and Capo look about 10 years younger. So the 9th man and the man you found in the murdered in the captain's quarters are also in the picture? Yeah. Is there anyone else? Or rather, are there only 3 people in the picture? I'm afraid I can't see it. Duh! No, there's one more guy. He's got kinda long hair, looks smart, but a little cold. He's the only one I don't recognize. Snake knit his eyebrows. What's the date of the photograph? Doesn't have one. Did you look in the back? The back? Yes, the reverse, the other side. Blind jokes, woo! Actually, I have a blind classmate, and there was this one time that she was like doing, to be precise, it wasn't a date, but it was certainly significant. He read it aloud, so the snake would not be left in the dark. Praying for the success of the nunnery project, with Nijisaki, Kubota, Musashi, and Musashido. Nunnery project, Nijisaki, Kubota, Musashido. Junpei immediately flipped the picture back over. Basically, she was presenting, and obviously we all have like PowerPoint presentations and everything, and she was like in the middle of saying something, and she's like, if my classmates did the work properly, in here there should be a graphic saying the following, and I'm like, whoa, and there was no graphic, and like someone told her, like someone said it out loud, and she said, well, what the graphic should say, it was just like, wow. Only Hongo had not been mentioned in the back, which Junpei felt meant he had written those words himself. But what surprised Junpei was not this revelation, but the fact that it felt nothing like a revelation. It felt obvious. That their true identities did not come as a surprise was what Junpei found most surprising. Why then? Why wasn't he surprised? Junpei had just discovered that Ace had run the nunnery project, but he felt no spark of excitement or surprise because he knows this is an alternate universe. Well, he doesn't know, but we know, and that's why he knows. You know? Ah, of course. I understand now.
No?
No?
No.
No. Junpei looked over at Snake.
No?
Mura. I wasn't saying your name, though. I was saying impossible. The Japanese ways were impossible. Muro. Mura? I thought it was Muro.
Hold on. Muro is... oh god.
Junpei looked over at Snake. In his own confusion, he missed the dark look on the other man's face. Ace was the CEO of Kurtofarm.
Yeah, Mudo means kill.
Mudo means kill? Oh.
Mudo, M-U-D-O.
Mudo. Okay. Ace was the CEO
So that's
of
why I'm like, why are you telling me to die?
It's because I was 0 all along. He was the one who invented the game 9 years ago. He was Gentaro Hongo. Ace's Hongo? Even as he asked, Junpei felt as he had already known, because morphogenetic fields. It was as if someone had whispered into his head that yes, of course, Ace was Hongo. I had my suspicions from the beginning. Their voices were familiar, too familiar to be a coincidence. I could never forget his voice. It was the voice of the devil. I couldn't be sure though. After all, I had no way to check. I certainly couldn't ask him. Even if I had known, however, I would never have told you. Zero made it quite clear that what would happen if I did. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Huh? I didn't know that Ace was Hongo. Ah yes, I suppose you wouldn't have. 9 years ago, you were in the building Q in Nevada. But Hongo was in the Gigantic with us. I know. That's why I didn't know what Hongo looked like. But why? Why didn't you tell me? I mean, I'm your sister, right? You could have told me. I'm sorry. I apologize for keeping this from you. But if I told you, Clover, you would have told everyone else. And if you did, then I would have been forced to tell them about what happened 9 years ago. I had to prevent that. Clever and Snake's conversation wasn't of particular interest to Junpei. He still couldn't make sense out of the strange feelings of knowledge. He was trying to organize his thoughts when he heard Seven's voice. Hey Junpei, you think I could borrow that picture for a sec? He had no reason to say no, so Junpei handed the picture over. Seven stared at the picture and began to mutter the 4 names of the project. Hongo, Kabuta, Nijisaki, Musashido. His brow was furrowed and his face was flushed. Hongo, Kubota, Nijisaki, Musashido. He chanted their names to himself, pacing back and forth across the floor. Hongo, Kubota, Nijisaki, Musashido. Seven shouldn't have known their names. After all, he hadn't been there when Junpei and Snake spoke of them in the library. But as Junpei watched him pace, it was clear that he did know them. Hey, Seven, do you? Shut it. It's just be quiet. His eyes were red and Junpei could see sweat beginning to bead in his forehead. And this close to remembering. This close. He was sweating heavily now, but his lips were dry. Hongo, Kubota, Nijisaki, Musashido. Cradle Pharmaceutical, Nonary Project. Then he stopped. Seven set down the picture and looked at the red light near his feet. His eyes narrowed. Then suddenly his eyes went wide, and he shut up straight. Shit, what? What's wrong? Holy shit, this is nuts. What's nuts? I remember. Remember what? Everything. Everything? Yeah. I remember all of it. My memory's back. I remember what happened before I got snatched. Seven's voice was filled with excitement. Shock and excitement had frozen Junpei in place along with Snake and Clover. Let me tell you what happened. Seven hastily drew a shaking hand across his mouth and began to speak. Like Snake said, Ace is Hongo. From the right, the other 3 are Musashido, Nijisaki, and Kubota. Musashido was the man with the cash. Nijisaki was Hongo's right hand man. Right hand man. Kubota developed the actual technical details of the experiment. Realization began to dawn on Junpei, along with a pressing question. How do you know all of this? Come on, man, I told you I finally got my memory back. No, that's not what I mean. I'm trying to ask you why you knew all of this stuff in the first place, before you forgot it. Seven rubbed his scar on his chin. You really want to know? Of course. Me too. Snake was the only one who didn't voice any sort of agreement. It looked to Junpei as he was simply waiting to see if Seven's sudden recovery might take them. Or Seven might take them. This is gonna take a while. Hell, it'd probably take me a good 3 days to tell you everything. Well, we don't have 3 days. Just give us the short version, alright? Short version, huh? The big man pulled off his hat and scratched his head. He's actually kind of a cutie. He made a face and put his hat back on. Alright, fine. I'll give it a shot. No promises, though. It's just his overalls I'm not quite into. That's the only thing. Junpei and Clover nodded earnestly. Don't you love it that the only person whose person says whose name is in their role, and then someone else repeats it word for word? Yeah, Junpei and Clover nodded earnestly. Seven was a lone wolf detective who valued his own code over the rules, doing what was right over doing what you were told. That was why, on that fateful day, he'd gone with his gut and gone to wharf right at night on a slim lead. But it was 9 years ago. The wharf had been dark and cold and foreboding. At the time, he'd been investigating a spate of kidnappings, all of them children. They'd all had one thing in common: a history of visits to one particular hospital. The hospital had been under the management of Cradle Pharmaceutical, and Seven's investigation had turned up evidence that Cradle had been involved in the kidnappings. After a little persuasion, he managed to finally get a real lead from someone inside Cradle Pharmaceutical. They told him that night a ship was set to take children from where they were being held to a large passenger liner docked offshore. Seven had, of course, gone to the wharf. Hidden in the shadows, he'd searched the harbor. Until we already know all of this. He's kind of cute in that picture. There were a number of human shapes moving near the ship. There were men in black suits, many of them carrying large bags. The bags, there was something about the way they moved as they were carried. There could be no mistake. There were human beings in those bags. He had moved before he even realized he was going to. Out of the shadows he came, his gun already in his hand. He heard the words, "Don't move," but they weren't his. He felt metal touch the back of his head. "Drop your gun," came the cold voice from behind him. "I could kill you right now. It would mean nothing at all. I need only tie an anchor to your feet and doubt anyone will see you for perhaps a week or so. Is that what you'd like? The fish here would be thankful for the meal." With the words, he felt the cold metal thing behind him press against his skull. Slowly, Seven crouched down and laid his gun on the ground. And suddenly, he felt a sharp pain on his neck. A needle. Was it some sort of drug? It's Supperil! As he was thinking about that, Seven felt his face hit the cold concrete beneath him. He could feel the chill of it seeping into him. Choo-choo. Damn it! Shit, my head hurt. Seven woke to find himself lying in a hard floor. He twisted his neck to peer around the room. Where am I? Can I actually fast forward through this? Nope. There was a small shabby bed and a dirty sink. A toilet with no stall or privacy of any sort. As a cop, it was a place Seven had seen all too often. I'm in a cell, huh? Opposite the toilet was a door set into the wall. Seven struggled to his feet and hobbled toward it. He gave the door a good shove, then another, then tried pulling it. It didn't open. Well, that was about what he'd expect. It wasn't likely that someone would put him in a cell only to leave it unlocked. He threw himself against the door a few times, but to no avail. I knew it. Seven grumbled to himself as he moved back toward the bed. He sat down. He sat there for a very long time. Just how long he wasn't sure. At last he began to nod off. He had nearly fallen asleep when he was roused by a distant voice. It's 9. The voice was far away, very far away. Seven couldn't understand. I'm tired of reading, so out loud. I'm just gonna, be here drinking water. While this happens.
Hang in there.
I can't. There's still the incinerator, isn't there? I have to still finish the incinerator puzzle.
Yeah. And you might hate it. You might.
I might just give in and use the guide for that.
It just depends on how good you are at thinking right now.
I mean, it's almost midnight and I've been doing homework all day. So, I don't know, Chad. Do you want me to see me struggle with puzzles when I can barely even speak? Just so I can finish this game for you guys. There was a hole for the ventilation and the wall, where the bed had been covered with a metal grate. Seven lay down on his stomach and peered through the grate. He couldn't see anything. Fury fried brain. Yep. He couldn't see anything, it was too dark. Now that he'd found it, however, there could be no doubt this was the source of the voices. For a moment, He was confused. Why were there children nearby? Then he remembered